Today on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with the Thickness Reid Matthews. I like to start at the same place with everybody, and that's if you're a wrestler, you probably started as a fan. When did you first get exposed to professional wrestling?
So this is funny. I really wasn't a fan. I put it in loose terms. Like my friends when I was younger always talked about wrestling. I couldn't tell you anything. I never watched it. There is this one match that I watched. I don't know what show it was. I know it was wrestling, and I don't even remember the names of the wrestlers because I'm pretty sure one was called a Roadrunner, but I have no clue who it is. He had glasses. This other guy, he was like a goofy gimmick. He broke the glasses. He lost because he broke the glasses. But I didn't really discover wrestling until The Rock had a documentary on Netflix because I think it was like the early 2010s and Netflix had a ton of WWE documentaries. And I saw that documentary and I was like, man, this stuff looks so cool. There's no way it stopped. It must be still going to today. So I started actually watching wrestling in 2014.
Okay.
So this puts me, I like graduated school at this point. Like I was a 18-year-old. Actually, no, it was 2013. It was 2013 because I watched it for about a year and then I started wrestling shortly after. So my first pay-per-view was, and this was like the third show I watched because I watched Raw and SmackDown before, was Daniel Bryan beating John Cena for the title and then getting it stripped away by Randy and Triple H. That was my first pay-per-view.
Okay, so I actually find this fascinating because a lot of people that I talk to, they've been fans for a long time. They're kind of toiling away with the idea of getting into wrestling, or they're starting backyard wrestling at a young age. Don't try this at home, but they ignore it.
Yeah.
So you had a very short love affair as a fan before you started training. What was it about wrestling that almost immediately kind of clicked with you?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think at the time, like I was in high school. I was just finishing up high school. I was finishing up high school wrestling, and I wasn't very happy with how that was going. And I saw this. I mean, for lack of better terms, I saw the product, and I think I fell in love with like the grandeur and how everything was larger than life. The moves, the acting, everything. And I was like, I sat on it for a while. Like I went to college. I did college for a year, but like I was like done college and I'm like, I think I want to do this wrestling stuff. And I was hemming and hawing about what I'm going to do, how I'm going to get into it. And at the time I was messaging, was it one of the Hearts had a school in Calgary. But then funny enough, one of my dad's friends was just like, oh, Lance Storm has a school in Calgary. And I got connected with Lance, and that one literally just moved faster than the other one did. And so I jumped in with Lance in January of 2015.
Okay, so there was very little hesitation to get into the training. You just kind of had an idea almost immediately that you wanted to give it a try?
Yeah, like I think like, and I feel like for a lot of people, I feel it's like for the people who like watch it when they were younger, when it's like you're thinking about it, you're dreaming about it. It's like almost every waking minute you're thinking about it and think about what you would do and whatnot. And I was like, at the time, like I wasn't happy with what I was doing. So I was like, you know what? Like for a person who's only really watched wrestling for over a year at this point, I was like, I want to dive in. I want to try it and see how it goes. And so I was like, I got in shape because I wanted to make sure I had no excuses for myself, and jumped into school with Lance, and I've never turned back since.
I actually find that very fascinating because you kind of hit on it. People glorify it. They put it on a pedestal. You kind of mull over it for so long that it seems like it would be more intimidating, where you were just like, yeah, I don't know what I'm getting into, so what is there to lose? But did you also find that there was a little bit of a feeling of maybe hesitation, that you were going into it and maybe you wouldn't have been as knowledgeable as maybe your peers would, like kind of like you were starting a little bit behind the eight ball in that situation?
Oh, that was the biggest issue, actually. Because like at the time I was going, like I really just knew what was happening now, and I had like ideas of things because I watched these documentaries and I saw the things on TV. So it's like I could name people, I could probably tell you some important things, but like I couldn't tell you, like, like people who've watched wrestling since they were a kid, they remember the Monday Night Raw of their birthday week and who the main event was and what the segments were. I have none of that. So when I started school and like all these people are saying different things and Lance is telling these stories and I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I shut down. I actually was very reserved and quiet because it's like, I don't know anything. I know nothing in the sport. And it always seems so daunting to try and go out and learn as much as I could as soon as possible. It was always overwhelming, which is funny now because my tag partner, Mars, the specialist, he's a watch wrestling since he was a kid, diehard. Literally, he's like my wrestling encyclopedia. But he'll go and tell me like, "Oh, I had this idea for a spot or how I wanted this match to go. Involve this match. Never mind, you don't know this match. Let me just show you." Because I just don't know. And like I've gone back and like watched a few things, but I came to the terms with I like going back and listen to the history of things. I'm not a diehard who's gonna watch every Monday Night Raw or every pay-per-view that's ever existed. Like I'll go back and watch, especially now that's on Netflix, I'll go back and watch pay-per-view at work. But I just can't commit to doing the whole bit. I feel like it's overwhelming.
Did you have any sort of source of motivation or kind of assistance when you were kind of hitting those roadblocks? As you said, you had become almost a little bit more introverted in that process. And did you have anybody that kind of helped you through it? Did you have any sort of motivation, or how did that kind of first few weeks just really transition for you?
I was lucky enough. I was an athlete in high school, so a lot of like the drills and the bumping and whatnot kind of came a little more naturally because I had experience with high wrestling in high school, as well as a numerous amount of sports I competed in. So like that stuff, it was never an issue. Um, I found my biggest roadblock, and I really found it later on because I think I just became comfortable with it. And early on, I was in a different tag team, and my tag partner was a diehard wrestling fan, watched it his whole life. His dad was a wrestler. And so he kind of covered that ground for me and just kind of fed it in that way. But as I got older, that's when I started realizing like, oh, like I don't have the creativity that the people who have watched it for a long time do have. So that's the kind of areas where it was hard for a bit. But I think just the people I was hanging out with, like my wrestling friends and my wife as well, because she's been with me my whole wrestling career. No one's ever made me felt bad about it. Like, yeah, there's like little teases, like, oh, like one day, though, what me and this one guy were talking, and he was like, when that darn Jezebel, and I was like, I don't understand the reference. He's like, you don't understand the reference, and then he's like, oh, I'm so disappointed in you, my son, and I'm like, I'm sorry, father. Um, but like, no one's ever made me feel bad about it or made me feel inferior because I didn't, and I think especially now, like as I'm older, I'm more than willing going back and watching an older pay per view, and getting ideas and stuff like that. And so I think it's unironically just all my friends because I think I've been very fortunate enough to be around a great group of people.
So as you've kind of developed that fandom and maybe even we'll say just exposure to professional wrestling, whether it was once you've already started or just a little bit before it, were there any particular performers that really inspired you or motivated you, or perhaps even that you took as a little bit of inspiration for who you wanted to be in the ring?
I would say like if especially like watching my wrestling, like the two biggest ones are Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Because at that time, that's when they were in it. That's their NXT runs and whatnot. Like really, other than that, I just feel like everything I'm watching, I'm just trying to grab little bits and pieces. So there's not like one specific individual. So it's like I always give credit to like The Rock's the reason I know of wrestling. He's not the reason I started wrestling. He's the reason I know wrestling. And guys like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and a lot of the guys who are like the main eventers now were the ones that I watched. So those are the ones I really gravitated towards grabbing ideas from and kind of learning from them. Me, myself, oh, I think that's a hard one because I feel like still today I'm still developing who the Thickness Reid Matthews is. So that honestly I'm trying to grab from every aspect I can. So, I'm seeing the product on TV and I'm trying to grasp what they're doing and how he's reacting. But then I'm also trying to grab things from other facets. It's like I'm a big anime fan. My wife's introduced me to Bollywood movies. I love Bollywood movies. So I'm just trying to grab whatever I can from other avenues of entertainment to try and build on who I am. But that is still very much a work in progress.
So when was it during this procedure that you got to experience your first independent show? Because obviously you saw some of WWE on Netflix. You were watching a little bit on TV here and there. NXT you had referenced and things like that. But when did you actually get to experience a live crowd? Was it once you started wrestling, or did you actually get a chance before that?
So during training, two companies ran in town, and Lance was always like go and like set up the ring and shake hands and do like the very professional aspect of wrestling. So my first show was with the Prairie Wrestling Alliance, who I would go on later to wrestle for. Um, was my first experience, and the way I felt watching that show is the same thing I always tell like other fans when they're like, "Oh, like I've never been to a an independent show." I'm like, it's not the same. WWE, you could be front row WWE, it's still not the same as being in an independent show because very much what's happening in the ring is it's just I use the word intimate. It's so intimate because it's right there. There's no glitz, there's no glam. It's just right there in front of you, and it's raw presence, and that's the beauty of it. If I yell at something, they're yelling at me back. If I reacting a certain way, they're doing something. And WWE is such a higher thing that you're expecting all the glitz and the glam and the TV and the lights and the pyro and the larger than life personalities. But when you get to see it, like, oh hey, I know that guy. Like he's I saw him like just like eating a burger at lunch break at the mall, but it's like I seen this man do like 450s in the ring, and it just seems so personal. And I think like that's how I felt in that first indie show. Granted, it's also very weird when you first go there because you have no clue who anybody is. And that's where the next beautiful thing about indie shows is if you've never been to an indie show, no one in the crowd will make you feel like you've never been to an indie show. Because if you go there once, the crowd starts riling up for the baby faces. They're booing the heels. They're loving everything they love. And then you're getting into it and you're like, oh, wait, I'm getting it now. And so it's just, it's a beautiful experience. And I was very fortunate to experience that with like the first month of my wrestling training. So it helped fuel the fire as well for training.
I totally get what you're saying. I know I've been to WWE house shows and TV tapings, and it's absolutely a fun experience watching, but you feel like you're watching. You go to an independent show, you feel like you're actually participating in the independent show, especially when you see something like people fighting into the crowd or getting a little kid to chop somebody. And, you know, there really is an intimacy to it. You're dead on with that. So take me through a little bit of training up until your first match. How did you get kind of notified that you were going to be setting foot in the ring? Did you have a green light process, or was it just a set period of training? Like, take me through the process leading up to that first kind of match.
So we go through the process of Lance always did it kind of in two steps. The first half was very much like working on our cardio and our ring shape, and we'll learn some of the basics of wrestling. And then the latter half was all like match planning and learning to work and wrestle and whatnot. So by the time I got my first wrestling match, like I was already third month, like we're almost done. We're going to be officially graduated, so to speak. And we would reach out to the promoter, and the promoter reach out to Lance because they knew each other. They were friends. And essentially Lance would give you the green, give them, oh yeah, this guy can go, he can work, he can do a match and stuff like that. Funnily enough, I had a different name in my first match compared to what I have now. I wanted to go by Cyrus, but at the time, the promoter, when I was going back to work for him regularly, he was like, "Oh no, we can't use that name because that was Don Callis's name in WWE." And so I then came up with Reid Matthews, and then the Thickness came later on in my wrestling career. But yeah, that was essentially the process. Just kind of Lance knew the promoters, and the promoters would ask Lance, and he would say yes or no.
Okay, I definitely want to get back to the name, the Thickness, and how that came to be. But I do also want to ask you, like, what do you remember about that first match? Your emotions going into it, your performance in the ring, maybe feedback you got from the crowd or from the people backstage afterwards. Like, what really stands out to you about that night?
So nervous, especially because because it was a 6-man tag. It was me and 4 of my classmates, and then one guy who was actually in the locker room who was like a veteran. And we were nervous. Like we all like sat around each other to change. We were like almost too scared to go talk to others. And we did the match, and then the match I feel like to my memory was okay. Like you have 5 like green guys. A couple of them might have like had a little bit of experience, you know, back where they wrestled before, because we had a few guys come from around the world. And they had some experience. So it's like, I think there was like in the match, I think there was 3 of us who like never wrestled, period. And there was 2 of us who was like wrestled a little bit. And then there was the one guy who was the vet. I could not remember what advice he gave us. I mean, I know he came back and he was happy with it, and I think we were all like, "Oh, that went way better than expected." Um, yeah, like oh god, it feels like it's so. I mean, it's been 10 years. I think it's been it was 10 years this last March since my first show. And I'm trying to remember who was all in it now too. See, I don't remember if I can remember their names. I know one of the guys because I was on the heel side. It was me and yeah, it's Rocco Garzia, the Italian Lion. He was one of them. Like I say, he's killing it right now over in Europe. And the other gentleman's name is Cristiano Argentino.
Okay.
So he's a bigger name right now in yeah, pretty sure it's NWA. But he's killing it in the States. And then another probably the most famous one from my class is Giselle Shaw. But yeah, so me and those two other guys were in that match, and then we had two other classmates. They don't wrestle at this point now. That was who was my match. But yeah, oh man, thinking about that day is a long time ago. It feels like to go from a total different name to a total different style to total different gear. I used to wear biker trunks, and I used to just have like running shoes with kick pads over them. And now I got the boots, I got the pants and the singlet. It's oh man.
Okay, so let's go back to that the thickness. Can you take me through the origin of the thickness?
So when I started wrestling, I was a solid 200 pounds. I was pretty built, like in comparison. Like I wasn't like super lean, but I was pretty jacked. And which is funny now because I'm like 50 pounds heavier than I used to be. But my one buddy would always call me the thick. He would always say I'm so thick. That was the comp. I don't know if it was a compliment or a joke, but he'd always call me thick. Always call me thick to the point that like him and my tag partner at the time always called me Thickness. And then eventually, like I believe they're the ones who were like, you should like come out to that. And I'm like, you know what? Like I should. Like it's something different. And I literally just one day just decided, hey, you're gonna call me the Thickness Reid Matthews, and it's been stuck with me ever since. I think that's going on 9 years now.
Oh, okay.
Being the Thickness Reid Matthews.
So one of those things where you tried it on and it felt just right.
Yep.
So 10-year career now. Take me through some of the highlights that you've had. Some big matches, maybe some OMG moments that you've experienced, or even just opportunities that you got through wrestling that maybe you wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Ooh, a lot of those actually happened in the latter half of my career. The beginning of my career, I just had like that bad young attitude. So like I didn't do a whole lot and I just wrestled for one company. And it really wasn't until like right before COVID where like things started to pick up. Like I got to wrestle at the Saddle Dome. We were the first independent show to wrestle at the Saddle Dome. So I got to wrestle there, which was really cool. COVID, of course, shut things down. And then after COVID is when I was like, okay, I'm actually going to like give it the serious try. I'm going to make the roads. I'm going to make towns. I'm going to, try and get myself out there more often. And, like I've gotten to wrestle, of course, in Ontario, as you've seen now. I've been out there 3 times. I've done Vancouver a couple times. I've wrestled again at the Saddle Dome. I've also wrestled at Rogers Arena in Edmonton. I've got to wrestle at the West Edmonton Mall, which was really cool. I've even went to the States. I did a tryout in the States for Marvelous and West Coast Pro. I'm going to Vegas to like try and get some work during WrestleMania week. Those are all like the really cool things I've gotten to do. I can't wait for the next things to happen because I know that everything's just going to keep picking up from here because I want to keep pushing and I want to keep growing from here. But I would say so far the coolest moment will always to me be wrestling at West Edmonton Mall in the Ice Palace. Are you familiar with the West Edmonton Mall?
Yep.
Yeah. So the people who aren't, there's literally, it's like the biggest mall in Canada. I think it's like the 3rd biggest mall in the world. And there's like an ice rink and we wrestled in the middle of the ice rink, which is in the middle of the mall. So it's like, as people are walking by, they're stopping and watching. It was so cool. It was just such a surreal moment to do something like that.
When you said you wrestled in West Edmonton Mall, I was really hoping you were going to say it was on like the pirate ship.
That would be cool. Don't get me wrong. That would be really cool. I should wrestle where the sea lions are. That's what I should do. But I remember when they told us like, oh hey, like we're gonna do this show. It might possibly be at the West End because it's not the first time I've been told we might wrestle at the West End. There was a time before that we were going to, but it didn't work out. So seeing it work out was so cool, so cool. And we've been very fortunate that every time we do these big events, be if it's like the Saddle Dome or Rogers Arena or the West Edmonton Mall, that the venue's been super great for us. They've been super accommodating, and we've been just doing our best to try and keep these relationships. Hence why we just did our second show at Rogers Arena. Fingers crossed for a third, because they were so nice to us. Like, we get a little change room in the back. They're giving us passes so we can walk around. They're super into it. They love what we do. And hopefully West Edmonton Mall does too. We can go back.
So then let's go a little bit more specific to opponents and matches that were maybe memorable for your career.
Ooh, I had someone ask me this the other day, like what my favorite match of mine was. And I always say I'm my biggest critique. So I'm very hard on myself. So I like the way you word this question, because I have lots of matches that mean a lot to me. Like, I had my first last man standing match was against my former tag partner and my best friend, Colton Kelly. So that was very special. We built up to this moment. It was like a year in the making. It was such a cool moment for us to do. Of course, the Saddle Dome, Rogers Arena, West Edmonton Mall. My match with Alan Angels last year with LPW, because he was like my first name that I ever got to wrestle. So that was very special to me. And even shortly after that, myself and Lumberjack Larry Woods were the main event for LPW. I believe it was like 2 months after that one. So it was like a year ago in June. That was my first ever main event. So I was super happy about that. Marza Specialist and I did a taxes on a poles match, which was funny. I enjoyed. Oh yeah, we did this whole thing. This is a quick side story. We had a triple threat match randomly for the Clandestine Wrestling Society X LPW shows. And it was myself, Mars, and Taryn from accounting. And at the time, Mars and I were filming all these little silly videos together. And he was like, "Oh, we're wrestling Taryn. Well, I did our taxes." And I'm like, "Well, I don't do taxes for the Canadian government. I actually do my taxes." It was just a joke. And so it turned into, Taryn beat us, well, now I got to pay taxes. And then we try to wrestle Taryn again in a tag match with her partner, Michael Richard Blaze, and we lost that one. So it's like, we had to pay the taxes between Mars and I. So then it turned into taxes on a pole match to see who has to pay the taxes. So that one was a lot of fun. Myself and my Intangible Violence tag team partner, Zoe Sager, we had a Texas, it was a Texas Tornado tag match with Ride or Die, Stephen Crow and Taryn from accounting in January, which was a lot of fun. That's where I yeeted Stephen from the second floor there. That was fun.
I saw that highlight on social media.
Oh,
that was a toss.
There was a story with that one too. We'll get to that one later. I'll get on too many side tangents I'll forget what the question you asked me was if we keep going to the side stories.
It was memorable matches and opponents, but I just want to say I saw that clip on social media, I think on like your Instagram, and I was like, no way he makes it to the ring.
Oh man. I'm trying to think if there's any more memorable matches. I'll go into that story because that one's funny to me. I think that's it for memorable. Like, it's a lot of matches where it's like my best friends and these really cool moments we get to have. Like debuting for Pro Wrestling Ontario was really cool. Doing the shows for Destiny, my first time in Ontario, WrestleCore in Vancouver, new NEW in Vancouver. But going to the States to do a tryout for Marvelous and West Coast Pro, like that was, all of these things have been kind of big moments that I'm super happy and I'll cherish forever. Now to the side story. So I give full credit to this spot to Steven, because he was like, I think you could throw me from here. And when you're not there, like don't get me wrong, it's still very impressive what I did. I was very proud of myself for that. But when you're there, the top rope is probably a good like 3 or 4 feet away. And my fear was he's going to catch that top rope. Mm-hmm. And he's either going to whip his head down or he's coming back towards like a pane of glass, because that's what was in front of us. And I remember I was at the gym that week and I was just like, oh man, I'm so nervous about this spot. And like, I just like, you know what? There's a machine at the gym where it's like a pressing movement. I'm going to load up as heavy as I can. And I was able to load heavier than myself. So I was like, okay, I can throw him. Not a problem. I just got to make sure I throw him at the right angle so he gets in the ring nicely. And we're there the night before and I'm like holding him like, yeah, I think I can get you in there and whatnot. I did not imagine throwing him 3/4 of the way across the ring. That caught me off guard. There's actually a moment in the a little after the recording when our announcer Boris is like, I'm pretty sure he asked me like, "What do you have to say?" And I'm literally there's like a moment of pause because I'm still like processing. I'm like, I really toss him that far. I hope he's okay because like I really threw him that far. But it got such a good reaction, and like I said, I give full credit to Steven for coming up with that idea and being the guinea pig to test that because we've never done it before.
So you'll forgive me if I do the cliche wrestling interview thing and ask you the tried and true question of dream opponents.
Mhm.
Who is still out there lacing their boots, will stay away from historic, that you would just absolutely love to get into the ring with, whether they be independent or, what do we want to call it? Mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, I've always used the word just professional and independent, just because or signed, I guess, is another one.
Except for the fact that independent wrestlers are professionals as well. So, I mean,
That's also true. That's why I stepped back and I was like, maybe signed is a better answer. I mean, like, I haven't got to wrestle guys like Judas Icarus yet. I wrestled his tag partner Travis Williams, Mark Wheeler, Vaughn Vertigo for his. You got guys like Johnny DeLuca I want to wrestle, Justin Newhook, Kobe Chris, just to name like some indie guys I haven't wrestled yet. One of my good friends and the Vancouver area, Elliot Tyler, want to wrestle him as well. When it comes to signed individuals, I always feel like Seth Rollins. I really he's one of my Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens, probably like the top three. I feel like there's one I'm missing, and that's going to be the part that bothers me. Like, there's one I'm missing. Which one is it? Oh, Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb's
okay.
one. Like I had I had a good chance at a good time meeting him one time. He came to a PWA show. A big
That
fan
would
of
be
his
a
since.
hard hitting match.
Yeah, it would. Greg Sharp in the States as well. Another not signed, unfortunately not signed talent. Man's very good, and I would love to wrestle him as well. Oh, Dijak. Dijak's another one I wanted to wrestle. Especially when I saw him come to the Indies, I was like, oh, there's a chance. Or there's an easier chance, I should say. Ooh, Ilya Dragunov. That'll be the last one I put on the list there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Another good one.
It's wrestling. Anything can happen. You never
Oh, yeah,
know.
you never say never in wrestling.
Never. So you've gotten to go out to Vancouver. You've been here in Ontario. You're heading to Las Vegas shortly. What is another destination that you haven't hit yet that you absolutely want to, check off the bucket list?
I mean, like, I feel like the bigger ones are like Japan and Europe. Being able to go out there and experience just a whole new world of wrestling would be super cool. Actually being able to wrestle in the States, like I just did a tryout, so like I didn't actually like wrestle in front of a crowd for a show, so I'd love to do that. There's the Maritimes I haven't really been out to because I've done BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario now, so go out towards Quebec and the Maritimes would be nice too. Just kind of check off all the provinces,
Just work your way across.
Yeah.
So you get an opportunity to step away from wrestling, recharge the batteries. What kind of things do you like to do pass the time or hobby-wise when you're not wrestling?
Just hang out with my wife. Honestly, that's the number one thing. I got to play video games, and like I said, I'm a big anime lover. But like the first thing on my list is I just want to hang out with my wife. She's my best friend. She's been together my whole wrestling career. Like I started training in January of 2015, started wrestling in March, met her in July, and her and I started dating like later that year. And she's been with me ever since, and she's my everything. She's my best friend. She's honestly one of the reasons I am where I am right now, because she's always the one pushing me. She's always the one supporting me in every decision I'm doing. And like I wouldn't be in this position. I probably wouldn't have traveled. I probably wouldn't, have elevated my wrestling to where it is now if it was not for her. So after a hectic weekend of wrestling, staying up all night, eating terribly because it's wrestling, you just got to eat what you can eat. But hanging out with the boys, first thing I want to do is come home and just see my wife.
Okay. So first of all, it's awesome that you have that kind of support and that kind of relationship. But you get home from one of those trips, you and the wife are going to sit down. What anime are you throwing on?
She's not an anime watcher.
I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say that she got you an anime. My
no. I
she
watched
got you
anime
the Bollywood
as a kid.
movies. You said
yes, Bollywood movies.
Well, I'm still going to stick to the question, being stubborn as I am. So what are some of the animes that are your go-tos?
Because I just finished an anime. which is called Delicious in Dungeon, where they just like cook all the monsters in dungeons and delicious food, and it's very bad because it just makes me hungry all day. I mean, I think I can never go wrong with my favorite anime, One Piece. I love One Piece, so I could easily throw that one on. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. If I want to do sports anime, there's Haikyuu, which is volleyball. You got Kuroko no Basket, it's a basketball one. There's Blue Lock, which is a soccer one. I've been meaning to go back and watch Ultimate Muscle, which is actually a pro wrestling anime. Because I watched that one as a kid, and so I'd love to go back and rewatch that one. I would say those are what right now. It's kind of whatever I'm feeling. Like I have like a list of I have like a list of animes I've watched on my phone, because I like to keep track of everything weirdly like that. So I'm just kind of looking for the next new thing right now. I'm like, what can I watch now and add to my list?
Okay, and then how about you recommend to me some of your favorite video games?
Oh, okay. Well, we just had the Nintendo Direct, which was absolutely wild. The Switch 2. I'm gonna go broke for that company at this rate. Pokemon. I'm a huge Pokemon fan. Especially if you ever have the chance to check out the Short Kings podcast. Mars and I talk about Pokemon all the time. That's where we first kind of developed our friendship. New Borderlands games coming out. Love the Borderlands games as well. Actually, a big Digimon fan as well. Like playing the Digimon games. Trying to remember what else. Been very busy lately, so my video games have not seen a lot of light. They're pretty dusty right now. Mario Party is a great game. My wife and I love to play, so definitely Mario Party. The Legend of Zelda games have been awesome lately. I mean, I'm going to be getting that new Mario Kart because I think it looks great. So you definitely could check that.
See, I was talking to Grizzly Mac, and then we got into a conversation about Pokemon and our favorite starter characters. And I'm a little bit simple. For me, it's always going to be Charmander. Grew up with it. Do you have a favorite starter?
Oh, that Charmander is my favorite too, all time. Like my favorite Pokemon of all time is Snorlax. My second is Charizard. So my first games were Sapphire and Fire Red. So Charmander was my first starter ever. So he has a special place in my heart. So I'm in the same boat with you.
Okay, awesome. One thing that I like to ask everybody before we close out is if you had an opportunity to go back and talk to a younger version of yourself when you were just kind of starting out in the industry, what piece of advice would you give yourself that could possibly also convey to somebody else who's on the fence about getting into the industry?
Ooh, because I mean, if I go back, I got a lot of things to say to my younger self. But something that someone thinking about getting into the industry, because I know like a big piece of advice for myself, younger me, I would be, if you're going to do something, do it so you don't have any regrets. At the time, like I was just kind of happy with wrestling. Wrestling was a hobby, and it wasn't until I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to give in my full effort. And and I've had this conversation with my wife. It's like, I went through I almost went through a very bad knee injury last year, and I was like, you know what, like if something very bad happens and I can't wrestle again, I'm happy with what I've done because I've done a lot more than I did in the first like 5 years of my career, and those are things I should have done from there. And so if you're going to do something so that when you look back, you can't say like, oh, I should have done this or, oh, I could have done this better. Always do everything you can, reach out as many times to as many promoters as you can, make the trips, oh, this is my piece of advice for if someone's thinking about joining or starting wrestling. And it's a little bit about wrestling, but it's more so about you as an individual. If you're not going to do what you love for a living, what you do for a living should fund what you love. When I first started wrestling, I loved wrestling, but I was just working like these like really little jobs. Like I was just like a general labor in construction, or I worked at like Home Depot, and these jobs could not fund a wrestling career. Like I'm in especially right now, like I'm married, my wife and I are looking at our future, and I grew to terms during COVID that I was like, you know what, like if I want to do wrestling, if I want to do all these cool things I want to do with my life, I better have something that funds it because these things aren't paying what I need them to pay right now. So like I'll always encourage people like to go to school, get some kind of sort of education that can help further a career, because if you don't love your job better fund what you love.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Before we sign out, can you just let everybody know once again who you are and maybe where they can follow you online if they just want to keep up to date with what you got going on?
Yeah, I'm the Thickness Reid Matthews, thickest wrestler around. You can find me at the Thickness 7 on Twitter and Instagram. You can find my more calmer / streaming aspect of my life at Reid Matthews 77 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. I got the Short Kings podcast on YouTube. Me and my best friend Mars, a specialist, honestly just talk about absolutely nonsense for way too long. I edit those. It takes way too long to edit because I gotta watch like 3 hours of footage. It's crazy. You can always find me. I'm a regular at Love Pro Wrestling the last Friday of every month on IWTV. You can also catch me at the Thursday shows as well if you're in Edmonton for the LPW x CWS shows. This month I got PPW in Saskatoon when me and Mars are defending our tag team championships in a ladder match against Clandestine Society and the Brotherhood. So definitely come and check that out. And just stick to the socials because you never know where I'm going to pop up. I want to go back to Ontario again and back to Vancouver and go to all these new places. But yeah, at the Thickness 7 or at Reid Matthews 77. Oh, and of course, I always do this because I love my wife. At Beauty Gimmicks on Instagram as well. She's the one who always does my tans, and she gives me facials. Fantastic. I would not look as good as I do now without her.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, brother. This was a blast.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.